Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 10 transfer plans. In this weekly series, usually on a Sunday evening, I take you through some of my early thoughts and transfer plans ahead of the upcoming game week, just to give you something to watch after the football ends. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, Game Week 9, still ongoing. I'm recording this during the Aston Villa Leeds game, but I don't think that game will massively affect my rank, and I don't think it will massively affect my future plans either. And then, of course, we've still got the Leicester-Nottingham Forest game on Monday evening as well. But at the time of recording this, it's been another really good week. So we're up to a current rank of around 2.5k. I'm on 99 points, and I've had an absolute stormer, and it's mainly down to sort of like 2 or 3 players. And you could say that they're lucky picks. You could say that they were good picks. I'll leave that up to you to decide. I will always admit in FPL, whether I've done very well or whether I've done poorly. You guys know as a content creator, I'm one of the first to admit I get lucky very often, as to all of us. And to do well in FPL, you have to make number 1, good decisions, and number 2, you have to have luck. There is both luck and skill in FPL. And when you do well in FPL, you have to have both of those realistically. When we look at the players that have done well, of course, as a Manchester United fan, it's been a pretty shocking Sunday, but I'm going to pretend that didn't happen, purely focus on FPL. The Man City-Man United result was pretty much perfect for my FPL team. I had Haaland captaincy. He's obviously picked up 23 points with bonus for a 46-point captaincy haul, which is absolutely ridiculous. The man is unstoppable. I will continue to captain him probably for the remainder of the season. It's boring, but it's the way forward, I think. But the real heroes of my team were Phil Foden with a 19-pointer, scoring a hat-trick against Manchester United, and also Jarrod Bowen with a 14-pointer. Now, the Bowen assist is probably quite lucky, quite fluky, but generally he looked very good. And I did say this, a lot of people disagreed, but I thought he actually looked very good in Game Week 8 against Everton. I thought we started to see signs of the old Bowen, and then he's delivered a 14-pointer now, and I think he could be really good over the next 2 game weeks. And like I said, my plan is probably to sell him in Game Week 12 anyway. And Foden getting a goal in Game Week 8 and then 3 goals in Game Week 9. I didn't in any world predict that on my Game Week 8 wildcard, when I picked Foden, that he would get me 4 goals in 2 game weeks. And then he's going into Southampton at home next week. So those 2 picks on my wildcard have ended up being fantastic, and we've still got Maddison to play as well. Of course, Maddison scored last week. I think pretty much my wildcard has come down to those 3 picks being really good picks for me. Remember the decision I had to make on my Game Week 8 wildcard was, do I go for Foden and Kane or Kevin De Bruyne and Isak? Last week, it was pretty much identical, right? I think they both got 19 points, but this week, obviously, I pulled away here with Foden and Kane, so I'm really happy with that choice, and I just think I'm in a good position moving forward as well, especially having Kane if I want to captain him in Game Week 11, but as it stands, I might end up captaining Haaland anyway. So it's been a very good week. As you guys know, I started Everson ahead of Pope. That was just on the off chance that Everson starts and Ward doesn't, because I thought that Newcastle would concede. Newcastle did concede, probably quite unlucky to concede when you think Mitrovic went off. They got a red card, Fulham, so you can probably count yourself unlucky if you started Pope, but let's be realistic. It's probably going to be Ward starting again because Rodgers loves Ward for some reason. So I'll probably be getting a 2-pointer off of Pope. So if I do get that 2-pointer from Pope, I'll be on 101 points with Maddison still to play. So I'm in the 100-point club regardless, unless Maddison gets a negative point or unless Everson starts and gets negative points. But we should be in a really good position going into Game Week 10. And we're in nosebleed territory at this point. I'm not far off the top 1k. I think it's about 60 points off first. I'm not in a million years saying I'll get close to first, but just for those of you that are concerned about, could we win FPL? Probably not, but I'm getting towards that sort of point, and we're really starting to push ahead now. I would just say, I still think we're at that point in the season where rank is starting to become more important, but again, it doesn't matter until Game Week 38 anyway, and we are still very tightly grouped. So just to put this into perspective for those of you that aren't doing as well, before the West Ham game yesterday, I was actually up at 65k. Now, that's still a fantastic rank. I'm not saying I was in the millions, but you can see just from a Bowen and Foden haul, just from 2 players hauling, I'm up from 60k to 2k. So even if you're like up at 3, 4, 5, 6 million, all you need is 1 or 2 hauls. You'll be back down into about 2 or 1 million. A couple more hauls into the top 1 million. So you've just got to set yourself these milestones and goals. And I wouldn't stress too much if you've had a poor start to the season. It could be that in 5 weeks, I'm up at 1 million. And those of you that are up in the millions are down in the hundreds of thousands. So we could switch places very soon. And I wouldn't stress too much. We're still early in the season. But with all that being said, let's take a look at Game Week 10. So if you're new to my channel, this is not the only piece of content this week. This is just an early thoughts look. We then have a game week preview video midweek. We have a team selection video towards the end of the week. And we have a deadline stream for about 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday. So there'll be plenty more time to discuss the team in more details and discuss the actual transfers I make. This is just a bit of an early look ahead to game week 10. And to be honest, the team's actually looking probably better than it did in game week 9. Actually, on paper in game week 9, the team looked pretty pretty poor, to be honest. We had triple City against a United team that looked like they were improving. We had Bowen against Wolves, which didn't look like an easy fixture. We had James against Palace, and again, that looked like they were going to concede, which they did. We had Martinelli and Kane playing against each other. We had Mitrovic against Trippier and Pope, which was a bit of a clash. So the team on paper didn't look great. It was only due to the hauls from a couple of players that end up doing well. This week, the team looks a lot more well-rounded and the fixtures are much better for my team in general. And remember, we've got 2 free transfers in Game Week 10 as well, because I rolled a transfer in Game Week 9 because I wildcarded in Game Week 8. So we're going in with a strong team, 2 free transfers. I did want Zaha in Game Week 10. I've said this for a while. He's obviously got Leeds in Game Week 10, then Leicester in 11, and a really nice run up to the World Cup. The only way that I can do that, though, is to take out one of Bowen, Foden or Maddison, or take Martinelli out as part of a 2 transfer move and upgrade Martinelli. I don't want to take out Bowen, Foden or Maddison this week. They've all got great fixtures, not only this week, but maybe for the future as well. I could move Foden on next week if I want to. And I don't think I want to take Martinelli out this week. The reason for that is I still think he's great value. He's playing against Trent this week, and Liverpool and Trent in particular look really poor at the moment. I think there could be goals for Arsenal there. And then remember after that, he's got Leeds, blank, Southampton, Forest. So if I can bench him in the blank, it's Leeds, Southampton, Forest. So I think Martinelli's just going to stay in my team now for the foreseeable future, probably up until at least the World Cup, maybe even beyond that. So I think the most sensible thing to do for Zaha is to wait one more week when Foden has then Liverpool blank in Game Week 11 and 12. If I then take him out that week, I feel like that makes a little bit more sense. Bring in Zaha against Leicester, take out Foden that week. It does mean that I don't get Zaha against Leeds, but to be honest, I fancy Foden against Southampton as much as Zaha against Leeds. I think the only way that I make that move is if I get any sort of inkling or nod from Pep that Foden might be rested, because I think there's a small chance we see a little bit of rotation in that Saints game due to the upcoming Champions League football. So I think that could be the only reason I would maybe make the move away from Foden. But I think I would just risk it anyway, because if he does start, we saw what he did against Manchester United. We've seen how good City are. It's at home again. It looks like a really good fixture for him. So I suppose the only move that I really can see myself making at the moment is due to the Mitrovic injury. Now, at the time of me recording this, I've got absolutely no news how severe that is. It could have literally just been a small knock. It did look like it was an aggravation of what we saw in the international break, though. If that is the case, it could be a slightly longer term injury than we thought. We'll just have to wait for updated news in the press conferences. But if Mitrovic is out, that does give me something to do with my team. Now, there's 2 things to know. I don't really want to take Mitrovic out. So if it's maybe touch and go, I've got a feeling I'd probably keep him. And if he doesn't play, I've got a decent bench to rely on. And the second thing is, I don't think I want to use 2 transfers. If that is the case, it rules out a lot of the good options for me. So it rules out like Callum Wilson, Watkins, Tony. It rules out anyone over 6.9 million, which is Mitrovic's price. So I've only got like a couple of decent options. I have the very obvious move, which is probably the most likely one for me to make at the moment. And I know people don't like this, but I've given all of last week, I gave so many reasons why I still think he's a good pick. That is Solanke at 5.7. Obviously, he's a lot cheaper. It will give me some money in the bank, and it gives me a player that I know has decent fixtures and will play 90 minutes every week with penalties. So Solanke's an option in that spot. And then there's a couple of cheekier punts you could go in there. You could go for a Danny Welbeck, but the fixtures aren't fantastic. I still think he's a good pick. And then, just due to what we saw in the Manchester derby just recently in Game Week 9, I could potentially go for Anthony Martial, who is now 6.9 million. Now, he was touch and go for fitness. He wasn't fit enough to start the game, but when he come on, he looked absolutely fantastic. I could potentially do Mitrovic to Martial if I want to take a bit of a punt on my 11th player in this team. The only thing that maybe slightly puts me off Martial is so far this season, I've been very good, and I think it's why I've done quite well this season. My team's been very safe, standard template, and when I've taken a couple of risks, I've taken risks on players with good fixtures, fairly nailed in their team, fairly talismanic, and with decent data, most of them. The issue is with Martial is the fixtures aren't great, and he's not nailed on in the team, even if he is fit. I do think he's in our starting 11 if he's fit, but he's definitely not nailed. So I worry that that's maybe a transfer waiting to happen. And with the upcoming blank in Game Week 12, not only does Martial play against Tottenham that week, which isn't ideal, there's also no guarantee he starts. And I just feel like with everything going on at the moment, I could probably do with a safe starter. And whilst Solanke's maybe not as exciting, whilst his ceiling isn't as high as Martial's, because he plays 90 minutes every game, because he's definitely on penalties. Martial did take a penalty in 9, but I don't think that'll be consistent. I think it's because he won the pen. So while Solanke's 90 minutes nailed on pens and with better fixtures than Martial, especially in Game Week 12, I think at the moment I'm probably leaning that way. But this is the team for Game Week 10. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know what your dilemmas are ahead of Game Week 10. Let's just move over to Fantasy Football Hub now and take a little look at, if I do make any of those transfers, what my team will look like for future weeks. So just skipping over to the Fantasy Football Hub My Team feature, just looking ahead for this week and future weeks as well. like I said, I don't really need to make a move this week if Mitrovic is fit. So let's for now just assume that he is, because if he isn't fit, it's just going to be a straight switch to another striker, and it won't affect my plans too much anyway. I've got 2 free transfers this week, so if I only make that one move, I'll still have 2 free transfers next week. So again, it shouldn't affect my plans too much. So moving ahead to game week 11, the team's in a very strong position again. The only maybe slight weakness is that I've got City assets against Liverpool. But I think, again, this could be an absolute goal fest. Haaland could score loads. Cancelo could get something. Even if it's fairly tight, Haaland could get something. Cancelo clean sheet. I just think if you've got Liverpool and City assets, you don't bench them, you play them all, and you just hope that as many of them get you points as possible. And then outside of that, the team's looking decent enough. It's probably not my strongest week, to be honest. I've got Pope and Trippier against Manchester United. I've actually benched Trippier here, but I could start him. I've got Mark Guehi against Leicester, and obviously I've got Maddison against Palace, so there's a bit of a clash there. So I have a couple of clashes. It's not the most ideal team in the world. If I don't have Mitrovic again, I don't then have Mitrovic against Bournemouth. But what I do have, if I don't want to captain Haaland, is I have arguably the best captaincy option this week, which is Kane at home to Everton. Now, Everton have actually been pretty decent defensively, but I still think this is a better captaincy option than Haaland. So let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Maybe I'll bottle it. Maybe I'll still go for Haaland. But I have a really nice, decent alternative there if I want to. If we then skip ahead to game week... in game week 11, by the way, I've brought in Zaha there. So I've just plugged in my transfers already. So in this week, because City play against Liverpool, I brought in Zaha for Foden, which means I would then still have 2 free transfers in game week 12. Now, this is massively dependent on seeing some sort of improvement from Liverpool and Salah. They looked a little bit better at points in 9, but they were still very disappointing. If we see that over the next couple, maybe I won't want to make this move, because this move involves taking out Bowen and Kane, who are both looking very decent at the moment, for Salah and Wilson. The reason for that is it just gives me, in my opinion, if Salah is playing well and Liverpool are playing well, it's probably the best captaincy option in game week 12. And then remember, after game week 12, Salah has... He has West Ham in 12, Nottingham Forest, Leeds, Tottenham, Southampton before the World Cup. So this move would be for free, and it would involve getting Salah captaincy in, which would then put the team in a really good position moving forward. And then the plan in game week 12 would therefore be to bench Cancelo, Martinelli and Haaland. The reason for benching Martinelli is because he's then got Southampton and Nottingham Forest after the blank. I don't really want to sell him if possible. So I can field a really strong team moving forward. I guess, like I said, the only issue would be if Mitrovic is injured, what do we do? So we've got 2 options. We can not make a move and just burn a transfer and start Guehi if we want to, if we think Mitrovic will be back for Bournemouth. Because to be honest, even if he doesn't play in 10, there could be value for just keeping him anyway if he's only out short term. So if he's only out for 1 week and we have it confirmed that it's only a little knock, I might keep him. But the other option, like I said, is pretty much, if we just change the pricing over here to, I think it's 6.9 Mitrovic's, and then we just go to forwards. We've got Martial, right? Could be a decent shout. Like I said, it's maybe a little bit knee-jerky, but whenever he plays, he tends to be pretty good. It's just he's so injury-prone. But it's Everton, Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea, West Ham, Villa, Fulham. As an entirety, they're not bad, but having Tottenham, Newcastle, and Chelsea in the next 4, they're pretty tough defences. And even Everton to some extent, especially Everton away, you could say isn't the easiest fixture. I could go for like a Scamacca, if we think Scamacca's going to start ahead of Antonio, but I do just worry that those 2 are going to rotate, and the one that does start tends to come off between 60 and 70 minutes, so that's not ideal. Then, like I said, I do have the option of Danny Welbeck if I want to. He's got decent fixtures, but not great. He does have Brentford and Nottingham Forest in the next 3, but then it's City and Chelsea after that, so Welbeck could be an option. I have the option of Mbeumo if I want to, but again, the fixtures aren't great for Brentford up until the World Cup. So I think most likely the player that it would be, I know people don't like it, but it's due to the fixtures being nailed and stuff, is Solanke. Leicester, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Tottenham, Leeds, Everton. It's a really nice run of fixtures. You know that he's going to start. He's a bit of an enabler, yes, but it gives me some money in the bank, and I do like the way the team looks moving forward if I make that move. So that's kind of the current plans at the moment. I guess it's just to assess. I've got 2 free transfers. It's probably going to be Mitrovic out if he's out long term. If he's out short term, I'm in a position where I don't really need to use either of my transfers. I'll probably still use one of them. It might even be, for example, that I take Salisu out. Now, Salisu didn't start in game week 9. I'm pretty sure it's because he played 3 days earlier for Ghana. So I think he played on like the 27th and the game was on the 1st. It might just be due to the fact that he didn't have much of a recovery period, because as far as I'm concerned, Salisu is still first choice. But if I've got any worries about that, I could just make a move from Salisu to like Justin or something like that if I want to. Just move to another £4.4 million defender and below. So I have that option there as well, rather than burning a transfer, I guess. So that's the way the team looks. Let me know what you think of my team, and also let me know what your dilemmas are down below in the comments. So guys, there we have it. That is my sort of early thoughts transfer plans video ahead of game week 10. We're into double digits now. The season is going quite quickly now at the moment. It did start very slowly with that sort of template start, but I feel like it's starting to pick up now heading towards the World Cup. If you are enjoying the content on my channel, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 likes on every video. So if you're still watching this and the video is not yet at 1,000 likes, please do drop a like. Make sure to subscribe as well. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.